What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. My name is Kyle, and in tonight's video, we're going to be continuing the video that we just left off on. We're going to cover the wide receiver projections. For 2021, we're going to take a peek at my PPR projections. We're going to look at the opportunity share that I have projected, the yard share, and the target share. If you guys are new to the channel, you should definitely subscribe. Check out some of the old videos that we had posted on these opportunity, yard, and target share. We do have the tab pulled up here, where basically if you're new to opportunity share, we're basically looking at how often a team is trying to get that player the ball. So for wide receivers, you're looking at anybody in the high teens. Usually you don't go over 20%, but essentially we're just trying to figure out how often a team tries to get that player the ball. That kind of has a correlation to where they finish in PPR. So really good stat that we're going to look at here. I have all of the 2020 rules that we studied in those videos that I was mentioning earlier. So we're going to start here. We're going to look at the 2020 rules, and then we'll look at the 2021 projections that I have set. So the first rule is target elite wide receivers with a 14% projected opportunity share, which basically means we want a player that 14 times out of 100 plays, they're going to get the ball, or at least, thrown the ball, handed off, whatever, an attempt to get them the ball. So for 14%, and here we are at the 2021 wide receiver projections. If you're interested, you can check out my draft kit in the description below. But we're looking at 14% opportunity share here. And let's see how many people I have qualify. I only have like 6 wide receivers that are going to qualify this. And the chances of them being an elite wide receiver one, whether that's a top 5, top 10 wide receiver, is really strong. So Stephon Diggs, I have him leading the way. Almost 16% opportunity share. Devontae Adams, assuming Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback. DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, Michael Thomas, and Allen Robinson. Now, I have no problems with taking any of these 6 wide receivers at ADP. I love all of them. Do what you want to do. It's all a perspective thing. It's opinions. If you want DeAndre Hopkins more than Calvin Ridley, you can do that. You don't always have to follow ADP, follow and trust yourself first. But I have no problems with drafting any of these 6 wide receivers. And technically, Michael Thomas and Allen Robinson, who are on the thumbnail of this video, they're probably the most value. You can get these guys in the 3rd round right now, and they're going to be just as studly and targeted as some of the other players. So I really like Thomas and Allen Robinson in this group from the value perspective. Let's see what else kind of rules that we have here. I guess we'll just kind of cover this real quick too. If you look at the opportunity share study that I have from 2020, you see this is the top 12 receivers last year, and the majority of these guys finished as top 10 wide receivers. So you can kind of see the correlation there. And then as we scroll down, we're going to get to some other criteria here. So I'm saying the target wide receiver 1s and 2s with an opportunity share of 11 to 14%. So we just covered all those guys that are higher than 14%. Well, what about the guys that are basically above 11%? So I do have a list here going all the way down to about 31 wide receivers. So we have a list of 31 wideouts here that have a really good opportunity to finish, in the top 24 as a wide receiver 2 or above. So that's going to be Odell Beckham Jr., Cortland Sutton, Kenny Golladay, Deebo Samuel, Juju Smith-Schuster, Tyler Boyd, Chase Claypool, DJ Chark, Brandon Cooks, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp, Curtis Samuel, Amari Cooper, A.J. Brown, Tyler Lockett, Deontay Johnson, DJ Moore, and Keenan Allen. And I guess we'll kind of just look at these top, these top upper end guys that weren't in the top 6. Again, that's Justin Jefferson, Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf, Robbie Anderson, Robert Woods, and Tyreek Hill. So basically this entire list of 31 wide receivers, like if you just went into your draft and said, I'm just going to take 3 of these guys or 4 if I can, that's really, really a good idea, because you're going to end up probably getting, one of these top 10, top 12 guys. But as you get down the list, whether you get Curtis Samuel on your team a little bit later, Cooper Kupp in the 4th round, you can probably get Brandon Cooks, who I know not a lot of people are interested in because he's on the Texans, but he is going to be their most probably trustworthy player, and we expect the Texans to lose a lot. So he should be the most targeted guy and the most useful player from that team. Or if you want to get Tyler Boyd in that, that 6th, 7th, 8th round, even Deebo Samuel, Kenny Golladay, a lot of interesting names here of guys who are going to be the premier receiving option on their team. So this is kind of the opportunity share stat that I found really helps me figure out which wide receivers I want to be a part of. So I'm just trying to scroll down here and see if any other studies here. So there was another study here too. We'll get to this towards the end of the video. We'll see who I have projected over 10 touchdowns, because a lot of times touchdowns are such a fickle thing to project, and they're hard to figure out. And a lot of these analytic studies don't really predict touchdowns. They predict usage. So I did say to project or to target wide receivers projected 10 plus touchdowns. So let me just go. And again, if you purchase the 2021 draft kit, you're going to get access to my projections document, which it's cool because it's anytime that I go and update a number and you open the document up, it's going to be real time updated for you. So that's something that I take pride in, and I basically tinker with this thing almost every day to make you guys get the most updated projections. So let's filter here by touchdowns, my wide receiver touchdowns. And basically, any receiver on this list, I'm giving you guys permission to draft. They're over double-digit touchdowns. That's Tyreek Hill, DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, Devontae Adams, Calvin Ridley, Mike Evans, and Adam Thielen, who Adam Thielen caught 14 last year. So I actually have him down just a little bit, but you got to admit, like, when they get to the red zone, he's one of their main pieces that they throw the ball to. And then I'll just kind of shout out the other guys here that I have at 9 touchdowns. That's Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson, Tyler Lockett. I got no problems with you guys drafting any of these receivers as long as the value presents itself and we're not, taking Tyler Lockett like in the second round or something. But a lot of touchdown opportunity here paired with the opportunity share. So if you have questions on the opportunity share stuff, you guys can leave me a comment in the stuff below, and we'll get to that. But otherwise, let's go back to one of the other. I like opportunity share, but for the majority of, I guess, wide receiver, running back, and tight end, the stat that I found to be the most, I guess, the most direct correlation to where a player finished in PPR is going to be yard share. So let's look at this. This was probably my favorite stat that we studied this offseason. And we're going to click on receiver here. And basically, the yard share percentage is you're trying to figure out how many rushing and receiving yards a player counted for within his offense. So what this means is this is the 2020 data, and last year Stephon Diggs accounted for the #1 receiver ranking of 23.6% of the Buffalo Bills yards. So the more a player helps move the ball, the better he finishes in PPR. And you can see the correlation on the right here. The majority of these guys finished in the top 12 wide receiver ones. There were a couple outliers, but Terry McLaurin, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and Brandon Cooks, they really didn't catch a lot of touchdowns. So that's where the touchdown number kind of comes into it. But for the most part, the higher total of yards a player gets, the better finish he's going to have in almost any format, whether you play PPR, half PPR, or standard league. So with that, we're going to take a look at the rules. Now, I said the top 6 wide receivers in yard share all finished within the top 9 of PPR wide receivers. And then the first rule is draft wide receivers with projected 20% yard share and over 1,250 yards. So let's see who I have here for the yard share data study. And again, that was 20% and 1,250 yards. Now I have, it looks like 7 wide receivers over 20% yard share. That's Calvin Ridley, DK Metcalf, DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Brown, Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson, and Devontae Adams. Take these receivers. If you can get 2 of them, sweet. We're going to be scrapping for running backs later, but I highly suggest trying to get one or 2 of these wide receivers on your team this season, because they're a really strong chance they're going to be a top 5, top 8 receiver. And then again, the true variable that depends on where a wide receiver finishes is going to be touchdowns. Just look at Tyreek and Devontae Adams last year. Those guys scored a boatload of touchdowns, finished wide receiver 1 and 2. So with that said, we're also looking for the total yards of 1,250. So let me just filter my yardage numbers here. So I just named those, a handful of players. And then this is kind of our list. Like I have 10 players here projected over 1,250 total yards. The chances of these guys being wide receiver 1s or, top 12 wide receivers in PPR, very, very strong. So from the bottom up, that's Michael Thomas, Terry McLaurin, Tyreek Hill, and then basically all the other receivers that I just named, on the slide before. So if you can get 1 or 2 of these guys, I think that's probably the best strategy that you can go with, whether you pull Stephon Diggs at the end of round 1 or round 2 and you pair him with, a Michael Thomas round 3. So technically, you're probably drafting 2 wide receivers with your first 3 picks, but it's definitely a good idea to try and at least get 1 of these standout wide receivers on your team. So let's go back and look at the next criteria here. I say draft wide receivers projected more than 1,100 yards. And as you can see up here, all of the receivers that I have in the top 12 of yard share, they were over 1,100 yards, and the worst one was wide receiver 25, meaning that they're probably, if they're over 1,100 total yards, they're probably going to be a top 24, top 25 wide receiver 2 for you. So let's go take a peek here and find this 1,100 yard criteria. And I don't have as many wide receivers as I thought I would. I only have 17 total wide receivers projected over that yardage total, but they are Robbie Anderson, Chris Godwin, Robert Woods, CeeDee Lamb, Allen Robinson, Amari Cooper, and DJ Moore. And then we already listed off those top 10 guys. So this is where it gets interesting, because guys like Robbie Anderson, you can find him in the 5th, sometimes 6th round. Godwin, Robert Woods, those are 4th round picks. CeeDee Lamb's kind of entering the 3rd round now. But Allen Robinson, Amari Cooper, those guys live in the 3rd round. DJ Moore lives also in the 4th round, roughly. So for me, if I'm trying to do a kind of a well-balanced approach, you can start your draft with like 2 running backs and then end up with a Michael Thomas in the 3rd and maybe like a Godwin or a CeeDee Lamb in the 4th, maybe even, Robert Woods in the 4th, or DJ Moore. So that's kind of, this, especially, basically from Terry McLaurin down to Robbie Anderson, I think you can really get 2 of these guys in the 3rd and the 4th round. So if you want to go ahead and do your 2 running backs, but come back in the 4th or the 3rd and the 4th round and get 2 stud receivers, the chances of that happening are very likely. So I really like this crop of receivers here. I think you should shoot for 2. If you had to pick a list of receivers here, I would try to get 2 of those guys. So we'll continue looking at the indicators that I have here. I say draft wide receivers projected over 1,000 total yards. Again, last year, the majority of pretty much any player that went over 1,000 yards finished as a top 30 wide receiver. So I thought that was a really good, tier. Let's see who else I have over 1,000 yards. So if you take anything from this video, this would probably be it. Draft as many wide receivers as you can that will be projected to go over 1,000 yards. So from the bottom up, I have 26 total wide receivers here. From the bottom up, that's T. Higgins, Tyler Lockett, Michael Gallup, Deontay Johnson, Cortland Sutton, Mike Evans, Cooper Kupp, Keenan Allen, Jamar Chase, and then all those receivers that we just talked about a minute ago. So now we're in that kind of that 3rd tier of wide receivers, where if I'm selecting in that 5th, 4th, 5th, 6th round, and these guys are available, I could get a top 30 wide receiver here. That's kind of where my drafts have been going. And you know what? We'll even include Julio Jones in here because I got him at 985 total yards. So this group of wide receivers here, I think they're going to look awesome as your wide receiver 3 on draft day, but the chances of them being wide receiver 2s, it's there, top 24, top 25 wide receivers, and you can get them in the 5th and 6th round. So that's kind of where I've been leaning towards with a lot of my mock drafts and my best ball drafts so far. So that's the 1,000 total yards. And then as we bring it back to the yard share percentage, and then I also say roughly 900 yards. If you find a guy that's, in the upper 800s or 900 yards, he's going to be a useful player for us at some, whether he's a best ball touchdown guy or if he's just really consistent racking up yards. But that 900 yard threshold, that's probably the lowest I'd want to shoot for. So if a guy can't get 900 yards, I'm probably not going to want to draft him. And then let's look at this 15% yard share here. So let me filter here by yard share. And I will zoom out just a tick. Okay, so everybody above 15%. These are the guys that I think you need to have at least 3, if not 4 of them. Let me can I get that in there? Okay, so this is the list. Well, from the bottom up, because we've already kind of talked. You guys know the names at the top. You guys got that. But Juju Smith-Schuster, he's over 15% yard share projected. Chase Claypool, Tyler Lockett, DJ Chark, Mike Evans, Cooper Kupp, Keenan Allen, and then T. Higgins, CeeDee Lamb, Galladay, all those guys that we just kind of talked about now. So the chances of these guys finishing as useful wide receiver 3s at least is very good. So if you went into your draft plan and said, I'm only going to take receivers off this list, I mean, you could probably end up getting 4 of them, if not 5 of them, whether you take a stud receiver in the 1st round or 2nd round. But you can come back again in that 3rd and 4th round. You're looking at guys like Terry McLaurin, DJ Moore, Allen Robinson, Michael Thomas, Robbie Anderson, and Brandon Cooks are dirt cheap. You can get them in the 6th and 7th round sometimes. There's Jamar Chase lingering in the 5th round, Cortland Sutton in the 5th, 6th. You even get a little bit lower in the list. That's where DJ Chark comes into play. We'll see about Chase Claypool and Juju Smith-Schuster, but you could legit end up with 1 or 2 of these guys falling into the 7th round, and I think that becomes a major value at that point. And then that other threshold that we were just looking at is the 900-yard total mark. So let me see how many wide receivers I have projected over 900 yards. And that's going to give us a list of 41 players. Now, I got Traquan Smith is right here at 890. We'll include Traquan Smith. So basically anybody even in the upper 800s, I could include a handful of guys here. Let's just kind of round up. And basically I'll even lower the bar here, and let's cut it off at Devontae Parker at 815. So these are guys that have a lot of potential to be useful wide receiver 3s, and as the more that I read up, the better chances those guys will have. But Devontae Parker, you can get him like 9th, 10th round. He's going to be an option for a wide receiver 3. Will Fuller, same team. I'm interested in how Miami shakes out for the wide receiver position. But then there's Laviska Shenault, Antonio Brown, Marquise Brown, Jarvis Landry, Devonta Smith, Traquan Smith, Henry Ruggs, Mike Williams, Adam Thielen, Brandon Cooks, Tyler Boyd. You got Juju, Jerry Jeudy, Chase Claypool, and we kind of already talked about a lot of these names, but there's Brandon Ayuk, there's Deebo Samuel. I can pretty much just say any receiver that you see projected over 800 to 900 yards, that's a guy that you want to put on your radar. So some of the deeper guys, I mean, Henry Ruggs, Mike Williams, Traquan Smith, especially if Jameis Winston's the quarterback there. I just think basically when you draft a receiver, you're looking at yards because that's a strong correlation as to where they're going to finish. So I hope that definitely helps. And then with that said, let's finish up, and we'll just wrap up with the target share real quick. But again, I think yard share was the most important stat that I studied when trying to figure out a correlation for receivers. So let's go to wide receiver target share here. And now we are looking at some new target rules. Last year, Devontae Adams led the league with 28.33% target share. So I say target wide receivers over 22%. And basically we had 12 receivers last year over this 22% number. And the majority of them finished as top 12 wide receivers. There were a couple outliers, but again, Robbie Anderson, Marquise Brown, Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin, these guys all had a little bit of a question mark in some certain categories. So this 22% threshold for target share. And again, if you don't know what target share is, that's just how many times they try to throw the player the ball. And I have a list here of 16 wide receivers over 22% target share. So if you had to tell me, Kyle, give us a list of a handful of receivers who could potentially finish as a top 12 wide receiver, this would be that list. I think target share, we want guys that are going to get the ball. So from the bottom up, Terry McLaurin, Marquise Brown, interesting. We know the Ravens don't throw the ball a lot, but he's the primary guy that's going to be on the opposite end of those passes. Tyler Lockett, Tyreek Hill, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, DK Metcalf, Calvin Ridley, Robbie Anderson, really, really high. DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson are both really high in the target share. Because if you think about the Panthers offense, one, losing Curtis Samuel, Christian McCaffrey is back, but they really don't have a lot of target pieces in that offense, and they want to throw the ball. So I do think Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore are kind of values and should be heavily used in their offenses. But that 22% target share is an interesting number to target over. And then we say elite wide receivers post over 25%. So who are those guys? I only have 5 of them. If you can get Devontae, DeAndre, Michael Thomas, Stephon Diggs, A.J. Brown, those are probably some of the best receivers in fantasy football this season. And then I say target wide receivers projected over 80 receptions or 130 targets. So let's look at that. 80 catches. We'll do that one first. And again, PPR, man, you just want players that are going to get the ball. So here's my list of 24 wide receivers that are projected over 80 catches. From the bottom up, that's Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, DJ Moore, Tyler Boyd, Chris Godwin. There's Robbie Anderson, Robert Woods, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, A.J. Brown, Juju, Amari Cooper, Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill, and then you guys kind of know the top guys up in there. And then we did say, 130 total targets? Let me just read that list off here. And that list is actually a little bit smaller, and it has a lot of the same names that we just talked about. So again, I'll leave that up for a second here if you guys want to look at it. But these are the receivers that we're trying to target. You know, if you get a guy, if you can get 2 or 3 of these guys that are going to lead the league in targets, you know, that's going to tremendously help your PPR format league. So DJ Moore, Amari Cooper, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Justin Jefferson. Try to get, and again, so far my preference for drafting has been to hammer, you know, the first 2 rounds is typically running back rounds for me, but rounds 3, 4, 5, 6. I could legit, if I go into the draft thinking I want 4 wide receivers with my first 6 picks, round 3, maybe Michael Thomas, round 4, call it DJ Moore, round 5, maybe Jamar Chase, and round 6, call it Robbie Anderson. Or if you wanted to get a different receiver, you can maybe do a Juju or DJ Chark or something like that. But it's very doable to snag 4 top 25 receivers in the first 6 picks. So that's what I've been doing the most lately. And then I guess another rule is target wide receivers projected over 20% and then 100 targets. So 20 and 100. Guys over 100 targets, there's a lot of them. I have 48 wide receivers projected over 100 targets. And let me just kind of scroll down here. Guys at the bottom of this list: Antonio Brown, Mike Williams, Darnell Mooney, Russell Gage, Marquise Brown, Chenault, Jarvis Landry, Devontae Parker, Julio Jones, Jerry Jeudy. There's Adam Thielen, Devonta Smith. He's really growing on me lately. I might have to update my Philadelphia projections in his favor just a little bit more. But then Brandon Cooks, Brandon Ayuk, Curtis Samuel, Odell Beckham Jr., Michael Gallup, Galladay, Higgins, Samuel, Chris Godwin, just so many wide receivers. So just looking at this list, if you can get 4 or 5 receivers projected over 100 total targets, really, really strong indicator there. And then the other threshold was what? Target share percentage. What did we say? About 20%. So that's going to be kind of the same kind of tier here that we already talked about. So I think that was pretty much it. Those are the numbers that I wanted to discuss with you guys today. And then to send the video home, what we'll do is let's just look at my top PPR projections for the season, and I'll kind of let you guys know what I'm thinking here. So here's my top roughly 12. My wide receiver ones: Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill. Those guys are the first 3 wide receivers off the board. I've seen them go in any order. It really depends on if Aaron Rodgers is going to play or not, but I have no problem with drafting either 3 of those guys as the first wide receiver off the board. And then you get this nice little fun group here in the second round of Calvin Ridley, DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, and sometimes Justin Jefferson. But for the most part, you're looking at Ridley, DK, AJ, and DeAndre Hopkins. If I can get one of those guys at the end of the second round, like that's kind of where you want to be. I have a really strong feeling about this group of 7 receivers here from Hopkins on up. The chances of these guys finishing as wide receiver, top 5 wide receivers is very, very strong. And then after that, you're looking at, Justin Jefferson, Michael Thomas. These guys are kind of at that end of the second round, beginning of the third round turn. And then you get this is a strong group of wide receivers, in the strong group of receivers in the third round, whether that's Thomas, Cooper, Allen Robinson, Terry McLaurin. I think those guys are all really strong ideas. And then you get to the fourth round. And sometimes, sometimes the end of the third, but you're looking at names like Tyler Lockett, Robert Woods, Keenan Allen, CeeDee Lamb, Chris Godwin. I have no problem with any of these guys in the fourth round. That's Deontay Johnson, Cooper Kupp, Mike Evans, DJ Moore. And then after DJ Moore, I think there's a drop off. And now we're talking about 5th and 6th round players. So that's going to be Robbie Anderson, Juju, Adam Thielen, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. There's Michael Gallup, Julio Jones. And now we're probably stretching ourselves into the 6th round with Deebo Samuel, Tyler Boyd, Kenny Galladay, even Brandon Ayuk, Cortland Sutton. There's just so many wide receivers here, which is why, again, I love taking wide receivers early, or I love taking running backs early, and then 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round. I think that's just such a good round for the wide receiver value, because kind of after some of these names here, Marquise and Cooks and Chenault, there's kind of a drop off where I like Jerry Jeudy, but after some of these guys, there's just kind of a weird drop off here. So for the most part, just hammer wide receivers in rounds 3, 4, 5, and 6. and then you guys can fill out the rest of your roster. So that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for your time. If you guys are new to the channel, you should definitely subscribe. We're going to be pumping out videos the rest of the summer and helping you guys get prepared for your drafts. And then season begins, and we'll be doing our weekly live shows, waiver wire, start sit, all that good stuff. So thank you guys for your time. I really appreciate it. Have a good rest of your evening. We'll see you in another video. Peace.